Oh, and welcome to Retrotainment. I'm back again with my co-host, capital C, capital O, Greg. How are you doing, buddy?
What's happening, homie?
Nothing much, nothing much. We're continuing on with our action August films. This
What a
week,
play! What a play on words.
yeah, this week we move on to one of the. I suppose it's technically a superhero film.
Is it? Is it? I'd say more an anti-hero, sci-fi action.
Yeah, but I suppose that's what all.
It can
Not all
cut.
superheroes, but a lot of superhero stuff falls into that as well.
Yeah,
Where
it
they're.
could. Theoretically, it could fall into any kind of
Yeah.
subgenre of a movie.
But for anyone who doesn't know,
The eagle.
scene behind me, it's the crow. This is the scene I have behind me is one of my favorite. The big burning crow that he sets up. It's so good.
Do you notice, like with that there behind you? Obviously, we haven't got to that part in the movie because we haven't started. But they do that in Daredevil as well.
Yeah.
Where he lights the thing in the subway.
Yeah.
That's what I always think of when I see it. I'm like, yeah. Daredevil tried to do that.
They paid homage to the crow. Now sadly there's more than one crow film. I've never watched any of the other ones, but apparently they're nowhere near this.
This is the one, yeah.
Apparently all the other ones just are nowhere near the same level, unfortunately. Yeah. It's a comic book, like, so it makes sense that there's loads of them.
Well, as far as I knew, Brandon Lee had signed on to do 3 of them. So the movie producers had set up to go with 3. Obviously,
Brandon Lee unfortunately passed away in a freak accident in the filming of this. But they have made other ones, but apparently they're just not very good. I've never actually sat down and watched them. I should, because I've really enjoyed this one. So
I think I might have seen one of them, but I couldn't tell you what happens.
Yeah, but
I have a vague recollection of the mask, the face paint and all that's not Brandon Lee. And I'm like, oh.
Yeah, possibly. I don't know. I definitely haven't watched them, so I might have to give them a watch at some point. But for this week, we're looking at the original The Crow, or at least as far as I know, it's the original. Released on the 11th of May, 94.
Summer blockbuster.
Yeah, big blockbuster. As always, just take a quick look at the rating. So 59 critics gave it 83%.
Well, for a movie like this is pretty fucking good.
That's a good rating for a film like this. And then an audience score of 90%, which just shows you like how received this is.
This movie is loved.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Like majorly loved.
Yeah. Didn't do bad in the box office either. 94 million.
I think I'd say it probably might have got a lot more if it had got more publication. But I think everything was kind of swept under by Dimension after what happened.
Yeah. Possibly. But there's a big cast in this as well.
Yeah, sure is.
Obviously, we've had one of the members of the cast has been a recurring member on some of our action films here this month.
He may continue. You don't know. You'll have to check out in the weeks to come.
You'll have to check out the other episodes, but he's been a recurring member, and he's always the little slime ball.
Patrick Kelly.
Yeah. The police officer in this as well is quite a big actor. It's surprising that he takes such a kind of minor role in a way here.
Ernie Hudson.
Yeah, it's surprising that he takes kind of, I suppose he's a big actor, but also he always is kind of the minor role, isn't he?
Yeah, even in Ghostbusters, he is.
Yeah, you think of him as in Ghostbusters, he's kind of the 4th member.
Yeah, he's the one you forget about, really.
Yeah, he's the 4th member, but like he's still a big name sort of thing. So
yeah, I like Ernie Hudson. Obviously, Brandon Lee.
I don't know how big Brandon Lee was at the time.
They reckon. Well, I know it was one of his first major movies.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I don't know how big he was. He was very good.
They were tipping him to be a major actor, star. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think he would have been based on this anyway.
Yeah.
But yeah, the opening scene for this is great. Where they have like just it's panning over the city, and they just have the explanation of the old wives' tale of
the crow taking you to
the crow takes you to the afterlife, but sometimes something so bad happens that you get brought back to avenge what happened. It's such a good like opener.
Yeah, and it's a real monotone voice. It's
kind of like a child's voice.
It's as if it's being read by a computer.
Yeah, but it's
there's no emotion in it.
It's a child's voice as well, is the one thing I always notice it as. It's like
I think it's supposed to be the girl in it, though, isn't it?
I think it's meant to be Sarah. Yeah. but it's a child's voice reading it. And it's just, as you say, there's no inflictions or anything it's just read out. It's just read that and don't have any emotion. Just read it.
Just point blank read it. Yeah. No change in voice. No nothing. Just
But then we get to the scene where, you know, what is the real opening scene of the apartment or loft or whatever they want to call it.
Penthouse, we'll call it.
It's in ruins essentially, and you know the big circular window is smashed. Everything's in the place is all smashed up. Police everywhere trying to investigate, and they're like, Jesus, this place is a mess. And then we see Shelley on the floor with the, you know, the EMTs or whatever around her, being like, we need to move her now, like.
Yeah, and he just gives him the nod.
He's like, right, move her. And then obviously he comes down and he's now a beat cop, which is, you know, just
he's on the street.
Yeah, you're just on the street. He's not a detective anymore. And he comes down, and the detective on the case says, he's like, you missed her upstairs. He says to the detective, and the detective's like, just giving it loads, and you're like, yeah, man, there was a woman like dying up there. Why didn't she take precedence here? I understand you have to protect the scene, but like, she's alive.
The detective is a dickhead.
Yeah, and you're just like, she's alive. Like, you do need to get her to a hospital. Like, why do you think he's done something wrong here?
Yeah, he's just a fucking arsehole.
Yeah.
And he plays the part very well.
He does a very good job of being the asshole. And then we get to see Sarah for the first time. She just comes in on her little skateboard.
I love this. You just see him going in between the two people.
But she skates up to Shelley, and Shelley's like, oh, tell Eric to look after her, and you know, his name, the police name, it's Albrecht, I think.
I'm
not sure exactly how it's pronounced, but
he's just a detective. It's just Ernie.
Yeah, Ernie. He's just like, yeah, I'll tell him to look after her. And then he turns to Sarah after Shelley's been put into the ambulance, and Sarah's like, you lied to her, and he's like, yeah, I had to.
Yeah.
And then she asks, is Shelley going to be okay? And he says, yeah. And she says, you've lied to me as well.
You dickhead.
And they're like, you know, we're really sorry about your sister. She's not my sister. Her and Eric just look after me all the time.
Yeah.
And it just shows you that, you know, like she's this girl who's out on the street basically all the time and isn't well looked after. That these two people have just kind of essentially adopted her, but not actually adopted her.
Yeah, actually, when we get a little bit further on, her ma is in a previous episode that we've done as well.
She is, yeah.
In Bad Boys.
Yeah, but it's kind of sad for, you know, you see her as like, she's just kind of like, she lives in this kind of shitty city.
Yeah.
And her parents obviously don't look after her, whoever they are at this point, and she's been looked after by two strangers essentially.
Yeah, they bring her in and feed her and whatnot.
Yeah. But we see that, you know, Eric is obviously dead. We see Shelley dies in the hospital, and it pans to 1 year later.
Yeah, I love that though. But like, even the opening scene to this, you know, when there's the opening credits, there's no music. It's just the crow, and then it pans Brandon Lee, and then the next name, and that's it.
And I love it. It goes, it's 1 year later, and we see Sarah walking along, and she's picking up one flower from every single grave that she walks by, because obviously she doesn't have money to buy her own stuff, so she just one flower from every grave, and then she leaves a bunch at Shelley's grave, and just one on Eric's.
Yeah, the single white rose.
Yeah, and you know, that's fine. Like, she obviously connects more with Shelley. She's a little girl, so she connected more with the woman in the relationship sort of thing, you know?
Yeah.
But then we see the crow land after she leaves. We see the crow land on Eric's grave.
Crows are big.
Yeah.
Well, that crow was big.
He is, but we see that the crow essentially brings him back to life, which throws back to the story, that the old wives' tale that we hear at the start of sometimes the crow brings someone back. I love his resurrection scene where he's like screaming the entire time he's getting up, and like he's ripping his clothes off him because he doesn't know what's going on. It's like his mind isn't there.
Well, like I was going to say there, like when he's coming out, you see the grave opening up. You can actually see him open the coffin up.
Yeah, it's
like
great.
Normally when you see people coming out of a resurrection, that's filmed from above.
Yeah.
Looking at the ground.
It's just a hand coming out of the soil.
This one comes up.
Yeah,
and it's like you're looking through his eyes.
Yeah, it's a great scene. Like a lot of the shots they do in this are just like genius.
What else they do really well is it's lashing rain.
Yeah,
and like you see him walking, but normally in these kind of movies you don't see him. He is shivering.
Yeah, and what I like is that the crow is like leading him. It's like, here's some shoes, here's and it leads him back to the loft essentially, because he doesn't know where to go.
Yeah,
it tells him where to go, which is it's guiding him so that he can get his memories back, because you see him when he's walking around, he's just kind of screaming and ripping what is on him off. Like, he has no idea of who he is or what he is. Like, he's come back with nothing. Like,
it's very well shot.
Yeah.
In terms of like, it's like him. Yeah, as we said, he's trying to get his memories back. It's him trying to regenerate everything.
Yeah. The one thing that we do know is that when they got killed, it was the night before their wedding day. And their wedding was going to be on Halloween, and the night before is called Devil's Night.
Yeah.
In this film, so he's come back on Devil's Night here.
Yeah.
Which is another thing. Like, this whole film is essentially just one day. Like.
Yeah, is it even a day? Is it just a night?
It's basically the nighttime. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we see that Sarah goes off back onto the street, and she rocks up next to the police, like up to the police officer, and he's eating a hot dog, and he's like, "I'll buy, if you want something." Again, she's just like, "Yeah, grand, because I'll get something to eat." Like,
I love that though. Like, your man, the cop is there, and he's there, and he's like, "Put the mustard underneath." Like, just give it to me.
Yeah, and put more onions on that.
Don't cheap out on the onions.
Yeah,
and then she comes along and was like, "No onions." What do you mean, no onions?
But and like, she has the real.
I don't blame her.
She has the real, like, childish response of, like, onions make you fart, and you're just like, what a childish response to why you don't want something, like,
But that's what she is, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I mean. Like, she's not, even though she has to be independent, she's still a child. Like, they never deviate away from the fact that even though she's real independent and tries to be, look after herself and be, tough.
Yeah,
that's all she is. She is still just a child.
She's probably only about 12 or 13.
Yeah. While all this is happening, T-Bird and his boys are off blowing up some building.
They're going to win and rob the arcade.
Yeah, and then they're driving along.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, the cop car," and they slow down as they drive by, but like, they jam on right behind them.
Yeah.
And then drive by him, and then there's the big explosion, and he rushes the other way to go see what the explosion was.
Call it in, Max.
Yeah. But the T-Bird and the boys go back off to the pub now, and they're drinking bullets.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that was about. Is it initiation or something? No, because they're
all already a gang. Yeah, I don't really get. It's just like their thing of we're real hard sort of stuff. I think.
What happened? The stomach acid caused the bullet to
explode. Yeah, I don't really get it, but like, that seems to be their thing, is that they're just like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah, it's strange.
But Eric's back up in the apartment, and he's looking through the photos, and he's getting his memory back of what happened that night, which is, she's attacked. He comes in while they're raping her, and then they beat him down, and they hold him up, shoot him in the back, and then throw him out the window.
Yeah, there's far too much of a rape scene in this for most liking.
Yeah, and they don't ever show it actually happening, but they show several flashbacks that are meant to be from her point of view of the lads above her, and so it's very
grim.
It is grim, like, it's horrible stuff, but like, it does a good job of showing you how, like, bad these lads are.
Yeah,
that they are real sick fucks. Like,
the very first part of that beatdown scene, you see them coming in, and he's reading off a violation sheet that they've sent to, obviously, the housing authority or whatever.
That she has sent, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why they come in, and
that's why they're coming in to try and teach her a lesson. They didn't expect him to come back. Yeah. So that means that their plan was to come in, just rape her, and to teach her a lesson, wreck the place, and leave. And she'd live with the fact that that's what they'd done. But because he came in, they went a little bit further. Like,
yeah, well, again, this goes back to his character that he plays in loads of movies. He's just psychotic. Yeah,
the whole thing is it's very, it's not a good image to be given, but it does a very good job of setting up.
Yeah, well, it shows the nature of that gang.
Yeah, like how scummy they are. So it is, like, it's needed, but it's but then this is when we see him put on the face paint. He uses her like makeup and like rubs his hands together to put the
I love just
the...
before that though, where he runs, goes to jump out the window, hangs onto it.
Yeah.
And he holds himself out and then he swings back in. His hands just heal.
Yeah, you just see the cuts heal up. So you now know he's kind of like, he doesn't take damage.
He's Wolverine now.
Like if he takes damage, he heals up. But like, yeah, he rubs the face paint on and he puts the mask. It's essentially it's the mask that he had in the house already. It's like the generic acting mask sort of thing.
Yeah.
But what I like, obviously this look is then used later on in wrestling. Sting basically borrows the look from this. Like that's the Crow.
Yeah, I didn't know whether he came first or he picked it from the comic or whatever.
No, this film came out before Sting changed into the Crow. Yeah, so it is. I think, as far as I know, it's from this.
Yeah, well, I knew it came from this. I just didn't know whether he got it from the comic or from the movie. Or...
Oh yeah, I suppose he could have got it from the comic. I've never read the comic, so I don't know if the Crow always paints his face like this, or if this was something that the film went with. I don't really know that.
Yeah, I don't either.
But we see that the Crow is essentially Eric's eyes, and it scouts for him.
Yeah, so like this, there's a lot of movies that pay a bit to this as well. Like even the likes of Jeepers Creepers, where they maintain that the Crows can see for him, but you never actually see it in the movies. But
yeah,
it's always led that because they're always there first.
Yeah, but in this one, we do see that he can see, like, it zooms in on his eye and then zooms out from the Crow's eyes. So we do see that, which the Crow shows him, again, showing him where to go.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
Like him and the Crow, it gives us that, they are interlinked. There is a connection there.
Yeah.
And it brings them to where we see Tintin out in... Tintin has just sold whatever he's happened to rob to this pawn shop.
Yeah.
And he's left, and this is where he bumps into... The Crow just jumps off this massive building into a load of, like, rubbish and starts laughing. And Tintin's like, what the hell is this? And then he's, this is you see the fight scene break out, and Tintin's like, he has the throwing knives, and Eric is like, you remember last year? And he's like, I don't remember anything from last year and all this, like, I didn't do anything. I didn't kill anyone.
Yeah.
And then he's like, yeah, you did. And he makes him remember.
Yeah, so, like, when Eric walked in, he took the knife in the chest.
Yeah.
Straight away in the opening scene, like.
Yeah.
And then he's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, but, like, what I love here is that they get into this fight scene, and then Tintin kind of looks like he's after getting the upper hand. And then he takes out the knives, and he's like, I'd like to meet two of my friends. They never miss. He throws the first one, and the Crow just ducks it. Throws the second one, he bats it away. Try harder. Throws the third one, and he just catches it in his hands.
Yeah,
that's so good.
That to me there was something that is like the whole.
Yeah, I think that is an homage to his father. Yeah,
who is if you don't know, Bruce Lee.
Yeah, Bruce Lee. Like, but he then he pins Tintin up against the wall and kills him with all the knives.
About 400 of them in his chest.
Yeah, one in every artery. Now I think the idea is that the knives are meant to look like a crow, but we don't get a clear shot of it.
Yeah, I imagine that's what it. Well, yeah, I'd say so.
But we also do see that he's painted a big crow in blood there as well. So he's made sure that he's left his mark of what happened. Like,
yeah.
From there, he goes into the pawn shop, and your man is just like, "What are you doing here?" He's just like, "Listen, a ring."
He is another character that plays the same thing in every movie.
The sleazy pawn shop guy, yeah.
Yeah. Is it Gino Polano or something his name is?
Yeah, something like that. But he goes in and, he's like, a ring was brought in here last year. Where is it? And takes one of the weapons in one of the knives in there and sticks it into his hand into the desk.
Oh, no, that looks bad in everything.
Yeah, it always looks bad. But eventually...
What I like here, though, is just before as he's going in, he knocks on the door and he's like, piss off, we're closed.
Yeah.
And he opens the shutters and he's banging on the door and he breaks it. And then he quotes Edgar Allan Poe.
Yeah, very good.
Like, when the raven comes tapping at your door or whatever.
Yeah, not tapping at your door.
Yeah. And he just stops because it's the Crow. And I was like, well, it makes sense if it was called the Raven to use it for.
It's kind of a weird one where they're like, we want to get this quote in, but it doesn't really tie in exactly. But we'll just put it in.
They didn't finish it.
Yeah.
Where it goes, quote the Raven nevermore. But
I like that he's like, where's the ring? So he eventually tells him where the ring is, and he finds all of these other rings, and he just takes them and he's just throwing them everywhere. Like, he clearly doesn't care about the other ones. He just wants his one.
Yeah.
The one that he gave to Shelley.
Do you know he has his eyes closed when he's doing it as well?
Yeah.
So he just feels it.
Yeah. Essentially the feeling of the ring will come back to him because he won't recognize it because his memory is still not fully there yet.
Yeah. It's a great little touch because he could have just had his eyes open and been looking.
Yeah.
But for him to close his eyes and then be like, no.
But when he goes back out, he's like, listen, you have two choices. You either die now or I'm going to walk out of here. And your man's just like, just take whatever you want. And he pours gasoline everywhere. And then as he walks out of the shop, he picks up the guitar, which they don't expressly say is his guitar, but we learned that he was in a band later, so presumably it's the guitar they stole from him.
I don't know if it is. I think it's just a guitar. Like there's no nothing to it.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. They don't really mention it much, but I think because they then mentioned that he was in a band later on, I'm kind of like, oh, is it meant to be his guitar that was stolen a year ago and just still happens to be there? It's not a big plot point, but it's just something that I was always like, oh, presumably it's his. That's because why else would he take the guitar?
I don't know, because the way he had the feeling with the ring, he's just walking out of the thing and just picks up the guitar.
It's also the only guitar there, though.
That's also true.
Yeah, so I don't know. Like, there's no real reason for him to have the guitar other than the fact that he was a musician. So I always just assume it's his guitar.
What I love here, though, as well, is where he has the shotgun. He loads it up with all the rings.
Yeah, but that's what I like. He comes out and he's just like, every one of these is a life you've ruined. And he's like, is that gasoline I smell? And then shoots the thing into it, which I don't know why it would set off the gasoline, but it does.
Sparks, maybe. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know, but it sets it off anyway. And your man happens to get out, and he walks off with the guitar and the ring that he wanted. But before he leaves, he does tell them, he's like, listen, you tell T-Bird and his friends that Eric Draven is coming for them, and they're dead. They just don't know it yet.
Yeah, a death is coming for them. Eric Draven sends his regards.
Yeah. But he walks out and, the police officer's just there and he's just like,
freeze.
No, he doesn't say freeze. He says, stop right there. Don't move. And he's I thought the police always said freeze. And he's like, yeah, well, I'm the police and I don't say that. I said, don't move. But, he goes over and he's like, who are you? And he's just like, he tells him, he's like, a year ago, these people, this case. And then he looks away. And the crow is just gone.
Yeah. And he's like, how do you lose a guy in open space?
Yeah. But when that's happening, we see in this little dingy pub is where we see the rest of the T-Bird's crew are all in here. Yeah, the pit. This is where they all are. And Funboy is there with Darla, who we then learn is Sarah's mother.
That's the one that was in Bad Boys.
Yeah. But she goes up, her and Funboy go up to her room after kind of just telling
it's his
Sarah, his room, sorry, and they just kind of tell Sarah, like, get out of here. And she's like, yeah, I already had food. A police officer bought it for me.
Yeah.
And it just shows that, like, she just does not care about her daughter at all. Like,
she's a junk ball.
Yeah, they're all just junk, like proper junkies, like.
Yeah, but like they were like they say something and she's like, oh, so she's working. It's like, no, she's not charging them for that.
Yeah.
So it tells you she's a hooker.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. But when she walks out, when Sarah walks out to go onto the skateboard, she goes to skate out, and a car comes, and this is where we see.
This is a brilliant little scene. No?
Yeah, Eric just grabs her, and she's like, "Hey, get off of me!" And then she realizes, oh, this guy just saved my life.
And she calls the driver a prick. Slow down, prick.
Yeah, and Eric's just like, he couldn't have slowed down and stuff. But he's not looking at her. And she's not looking at him. And she goes to get her skateboard. She just says, I wish it would stop raining. It's more like surfing than skateboarding. And he just says to her, it can't rain all the time. And he's gone. And she remembers the lyric
of the song,
of one of his songs. She's like, Eric. And she turns around and he's gone.
She knows then, though.
Yeah, she knows then. And we see we see, back in the police station, he's like, can you just bring me those files? And he starts coloring in the picture on Eric's face.
Yeah.
So he now knows as well. And he's like, oh,
something not right here.
He's like, but Eric's dead. Definitely, Eric is dead. Which I think it's great that, these two people, like Officer Albrecht and Sarah, know that he's back, but neither of them are certain. They're both like, it appears to be him, but how he's dead.
Sarah can never say it appears to be him because she hasn't seen him yet. She just goes by
the lyric of the song, but the next thing is that, from like the Crow ends up in Fun Boy's room, and that you see them just before this shooting up with what they say is morphine.
Yeah.
They say that a little bit later in the scene.
It's led to make it look like heroin, but it's morphine.
They do mention that it is morphine. But he's in the room, and Fun Boy is like, "What the hell are you doing here?" and stuff. And he's high as a kite, and he's just like, "Whoa, what's all this about?"
I love this though, where the two of them are like eating the face off each other, and the bird comes in. She's like, "There's a big bird over there."
He's like, "Hey, get out of here, bird!"
And then he comes in the other window.
Yeah, but I like that he walks forward, and Fun Boy pulls out the gun and he just puts the hand out. He's like, "Take your shot, you can't miss." He shoots, and Eric like screams and like holding his hand, and then he holds it back up, and it just heals back up.
I love that the way he's like this, looking through the hole in his hand, it just heals, and you're like, oh no.
But I like the Fun Boy is like, oh shit. So he keeps shooting the gun and eventually shoots himself in the leg somehow. I
don't know.
And I like
does Eric not knock it down?
Yeah, he goes to shoot Eric, and Eric knocks it down and shoots him in the leg. But I like that Darla runs into the bathroom here
and just hides.
And the Fun Boy is like on the bed, and he's like, "Oh man, you've ruined my sheets." Like, man, how high are you that you're more concerned about that? Like, there's some blood on your sheets.
Well, he probably wouldn't be able to feel
it. He feels it enough. But he feels it enough to pass out as well.
Well, there is that too, yeah.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, why are you so concerned about those sheets, man? The rest of your room's a tip anyway.
Them's be 100 tread count sheets.
But he drags him into he drags Fun Boy in. He wants to wake him up, so he puts him into the shower.
Yeah.
But he sees Darla sitting over in the corner, and he picks her up.
She has a cut throw.
Yeah, but he brings her to the mirror, and he holds her there, and then holds her arm, and he's like, This stuff is bad for you. You have a daughter out on the streets.
He knows who she is.
Yeah, but you see the morphine coming out of her arm, which is a great scene. Like, you see it like pumping out of her.
Is that him doing it, or is that just?
No, it's him doing it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I always thought. Is that him just somehow getting it out?
No, it's like it's a power that he has that he's able to push it out.
It does the same with the smokes as well.
Yeah, but then he tells her, get out of here. She leaves. She's like, she's not dressed fully, and she just grabs whatever she can and just runs. And everyone downstairs, gives her a, look at this one.
Well, at this stage, the pawn shop owner's downstairs drinking.
Yeah, and we see the right-hand man of
Grange.
Yeah, Grange come in, and he's the right-hand man of Top Dollar.
Do you know who Grange is?
No.
Tony Todd, who played the Candyman.
Oh, that's what he's from. I knew I recognized him from something, but I was just like, I can't picture him. I can't pin him. Like,
he's a renowned horror actor. Like,
yeah,
same as Robert Englund and the likes of Kane Hodder and whatnot.
Yeah,
I noticed it as soon as I seen him. I was like, motherfucker.
But he's downstairs with the guy who owns the pawn shop, and he's like, what happened? And the pawn shop guy's like, some guy came in and blew up my shop.
Blew away half my shit.
But he sees her running down, and he's like, right, I'm going upstairs to see what this is all about. And he walks upstairs, and Fun Boy is on the ground with all the needles in his chest. But as you see the first needle going into his chest, he's like, you're wasting it, man. Like, his main concern is that the morphine is being wasted.
Yeah.
And again, it's all in his chest, and there's a little bird outlined on his chest in blood.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
But I like that the Crow sits on the windowsill, like that Eric sits on the windowsill for long enough for your man to come up, and he goes, see you later, winks, and just disappears.
Yeah, it's quality. And then like he walks over and looks down and says, yeah, then they go back, and he's like, he just disappeared off a 4-story window.
Yeah. The only thing, like, we kind of skipped over the fact that we seen Top Dollar a little bit before this up in his office.
Do you think he looks like Val Kilmer?
Yes, he does.
But it's not Val Kilmer.
I thought the same when I watched it. I was like, it's not Val Kilmer. And I was like, no, it's not Val Kilmer. It's definitely not Val Kilmer.
I can't think of the actor's name, but it's not Val Kilmer.
This whole scene is very weird because it's his sister that's up there with him.
Oh, yeah.
But he's like, it's my father's daughter. But like, they're not a couple. They're just like really weird.
No, they are. Well, they are a couple because they were kissing in one of the scenes.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, but they are and they aren't sort of thing. Like, they're eating eyeballs and everything. Like, they're just weird.
Pure incest.
Yeah, but like even the whole like she takes out the eyeballs of the whatever girl was up there that they killed. Yeah, it's just they're weird. But yeah, that's who the main boss is in this whole thing. Everyone reports back to him. He runs the city essentially.
Yeah, he is essentially the kingpin.
Yeah, but once he's killed Funboy, Eric goes and visits the house of Albrecht, and he's like,
yeah, he just appears in the door.
Yeah, and he's like, shit, what the hell are you doing? And he shouts freeze. He shouts freeze at Albrecht when Albrecht has his back to him, and Albrecht turns around and he's like, you. He said, I thought you were dead. And he's like, I came back.
You've still got your hat on.
Still got your hat on. And he's like, oh yeah, takes it off. It's such a good little joke. Like,
he's in his jocks.
Yeah, but he goes over and he's like, listen, what happened to Shelley? And he's like, she was in intensive care for 30 hours and you know,
her body just couldn't hang on.
Her body couldn't hang on. And then he goes over and he puts his hands on his head and he takes the memories.
I like this though, because he's like, oh, here, you can read the file. And he doesn't. He just goes over and
takes the memory from his head. Yeah. And, you know, he's like, you stayed the entire time with her. And he's like, yeah, like 30 hours. And you're like, man, that's 30 hours. Like, you've stayed there for 30 hours.
Well, I know he needed her to come through to pin something on them.
He does, but still, he's like, you know, 30 hours, you'd have a police officer there, but you're not going to have the same one there for 30 hours. But Albrecht insists that he stays there, sort of thing. You're just like, oh, this is a really good guy. Like,
yeah, he seems like a top end bloke.
Yeah, but from there, you know, he now knows what happened to Shelley.
And he knows who's done it.
Well, I think he kind of knew who had done it, but he goes after the next victim, which is T-Bird, who you're led to believe is the leader of this little gang.
They have him and the last two lads have a weird fucking
dynamic
dance thing.
Well, no, they all do it at one point, the fire it up thing.
Yeah, but the two of them do it, and they're exceptionally close to each other's face, like.
Yeah, well, when the four of them do it in the pub, they're all quite close to each other when they had the guns beside each other as well.
Yeah.
So like it's obviously just their little, you know, like pre-raid and
get hyped up.
Yeah, like it's what they do to get hyped up. But he sends Skank in. He's like, go in and buy road beers and cigarettes, like. And as he goes,
if that's not the most Irish thing you'll ever hear,
yeah,
go and buy road beers.
Yeah, but when he gets in the car to like start the car up for when Skank comes out, but in the back of the car is the Crow, and he's like, just drive.
Right. I love that they have the neon lights and all under the car.
What I love is that he drives and he's like, go faster. So they're up to like 100.
That'd be miles an hour. So
yeah,
it's 100. 150, 160.
Yeah, it's 100 miles an hour or whatever. And then the police are like chasing him. But
I love this though.
Skank is like, hey, you left without me, runs out, and some lad hits him with a car, and he's like, hey, you just have to wreck my car. And you're like, man, you just hit that guy with your car. I don't know if you should be complaining too much here.
Yeah.
No, but he steals that car and he starts chasing the police who are chasing like T-Bird, like.
Where they fly by the police and your man's opened his coffee lid.
Yeah.
And he comes out and your man tears off and he spills all over.
Yeah. But they're chasing around, and then eventually you know, the police get cut off by the fact that
Skank is following them.
Well, Skank like pulls out in front of them and they crash into him, and he crawls out of the wreckage of the car and follows on foot.
You have to wonder how that man isn't dead. Like, he got smashed by a car.
Because he's a junk ball. He can't feel anything at all.
But still, something has to be broken.
Yeah, but you can see it. Like, his arm is all broken and hanging off and all. He just doesn't care. He's just following. He's like, where's T-Bird going, man?
T-Bird.
But I like that he gets there just in time, and we get to see like the Crow, Eric, like standing there, And T-Bird's looking at him and he's like, yeah, I recognize you a year ago. Yeah. And he's like, but you're dead. We threw you out the window, man.
And then
but like you see him like trying to rationalize and like worm his way out of it. Like as we said before, he's just such a wormy little guy. Like
the dead don't come back.
Yeah. You can't be real. You can't be real.
Yeah, but like you see it then, and you can see the whimpering starting to come in. Like we've seen it in other movies.
Yeah, he's a coward. Like he's just real cowardly, whimpery little scalded dog. Like
it was like he realized what's going to happen here.
Yeah. Well, he's like strapped into the car and everything, like duct tape around the head and everything, and he puts the like explosive between your man's legs and then sets the car. Off it goes, and off the edge of the pier, and then blows up just off the pier.
Yeah,
and then we get the big again. He leaves his mark, the bird. This is the best one, the crow in the big flames. It's so good. Like
it's been used by an awful lot. Actually, you think about it, they use it in The Punisher as well.
Yeah,
when they blow up the cars, and you see it in so many movies. Now, I don't think this is the first one to do it, but
yeah, but this to me is that's just one of the best scenes in this.
Yeah.
But while all this is happening, if they've gone to check his grave and they see that there's the grave is empty. There's a big sinkhole essentially where the grave was.
That's where Grange goes out.
Yeah, Grange goes out to check it, and he's like, yeah, it's empty. And at this time we see Skank go back to Top Dollar, and he's I
love how his name is Top Dollar.
Yeah, Top Dollar, and he's like, I saw him, like it was him, and he killed T-Bird, and like he's in bits, and Top Dollar's just like, maybe we should just record this and play it in slow motion, because he's just like rambling on and just shiting on, like he did this, and then he takes a drink and he's like, oh, T-Bird, fire it up, and they're just like, man, what the fuck is wrong with this?
Skank is juiced out of his brain here.
Yeah. Have you ever seen, like, if you look up a picture of him now, like he looks like such a little ski ball and that. He's like a real clean cut looking guy. You're just like,
I don't even know who he is, but he plays this part very well.
I only know because I looked him up as the cast member. I was like, who is he? I was like, has he been in anything else? And he's just like, looks like a real like generic sort of person. He doesn't look like the little ski ball that he is in this. Like, but they find out that he's being hunted. They're like, he's coming for me. I'm the one he wants. And Top Dollar is like, keep him here because we have to go to our big meeting now in a minute anyway. It's like, don't let him leave. We can use him.
I love how the Grange sits between them, or sits on the table and puts him between his legs.
Yeah, just like holds him there. But while that is happening, Eric has gone back to the apartment and he's burning all the pictures of his past life, essentially,
Yeah.
But Sarah manages to sneak her way up, and there's no one there except the cat.
To me, they're like that building with a whole lot of junkies being around. That building would have been opened up.
Oh yeah. Well, you see, all the police tape and stuff is still there, so you're guessing that maybe the police are constantly going back to check it. But
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, but Sarah manages to break in anyway, and she goes up, and she knows he's there.
Yeah. She does it very well. She's like, obviously, no one cares.
Yeah, like she eventually decides, like, oh, I thought you cared, and goes to walk away, and then he's at the window, and he's like, I do care.
This is a quality scene because the light comes through the window, and you just see his shadow on the wall.
Yeah.
In the circle, like the Batman shadow.
Yeah, but he says, like, I do care. She turns around and runs up to him, and the next time we see her is she's back at the same hot dog vendor van with
good old Max.
Yeah, with Albrecht, and she's just like, I can't. She's like, you wouldn't believe me, and he's like, well, that would make two of us.
Well, we did skip over a bit actually.
I know, yeah. Well, but like this is her. Like the next time we see her is with him, and she's telling him like, you wouldn't believe me, and he's like, I'm the same. I don't think you'll believe me.
And
they discuss like someone? That. Yeah, and he's like, it's someone that appears to be Eric, and she's like, Eric said he can't be my friend anymore because he's not alive.
Yeah.
Which shows, the why Eric was hiding from her in the first place. It wasn't that he ever didn't care. It was that he was like, I don't want to give her the false hope that I'm back.
Yeah.
And then he has to explain to her like he's not back for her.
Yeah, he's back for one thing.
Yeah, and he's like, I can't be your friend, which is, like he was trying to protect her, but like realizes eventually that like she needs to know that he did care. Like,
yeah, like the other thing there we missed was where she wakes up in the bed and her ma's there cooking her breakfast.
Yeah,
so she's taking Eric's advice and
cleaned herself up. Yeah,
and she's like, "Well, what happened to you last night?"
Like,
"Oh,
why do you care, Darla?"
Yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, but you can kind of see where it comes from. That she's you know, you're not my mum. Like, you've never looked after me.
Yeah, and now she looks a lot better in that scene.
Yeah, but like after, you know, when Darla looks like she's like, "Oh, I was never good at this mum shit," she's like, "No, I will give her a second chance." And she's like, "I like them over easy, mum."
I don't know what that means.
It's just a way of cooking eggs.
I don't eat eggs, so
yeah, it's just a way of cooking eggs. But I like that scene, is that, like, you know, the family has been
reborn.
Fixed. Maybe not fixed permanently, but at least an attempt to fixing it, which is what Eric tried to do originally. That was going to be his thing for her, because he knew he was never going to go and talk to her.
Yeah, that's why he done it.
Yeah.
It's like he's thinking about everything.
He is thinking about her, but he's like, she's not my main target. Like, she's not the main reason I'm back. But he's like, since I am back, I'll try and make life better for her.
Yeah, as you would.
Yeah. So, like, he always did care, but like, that's why he didn't come when she first went into the apartment. Like,
yeah.
So I like that the whole time it's never like he ever pretends he didn't care.
Yeah, it's him trying to hide so that she won't get false hope, really.
Yeah, exactly. But the next thing we see is, you know, there's this big criminal meeting with all the presumably the big shots in town, and Top Dollar is at the head of the table, and he's telling them, like, this whole lighting things on fire has become an institution.
Yeah. Devil's Night.
Yeah, he's like, Devil's Night is now just something that everyone does, and he's like, I'm sick of it. We need to do something big. Like,
what was it? You can buy Devil's Night cereal and all.
You can buy like a Devil's Night like postcards and stuff. And he was like, it's I don't like it. We need to do something big. And he was like, I was the one who started this whole thing. So he started Devil's Night, this whole idea of, you know, burning shit down the night before Halloween. So he's you know, you can see that he's like the head honcho, like. But this is when Eric dives in the door, or like the window, and just like pops himself up on the table with his legs crossed, and he's like,
that's another big infamous scene in this. From, if you ask anyone anything from the crowd, what's the scene you remember? Him sitting on the table.
Yeah, but I love that he's just like, I just want him, and you're just like, yeah, okay, like, he's just some little skee ball. I mean, have him.
No, he's like, you can't have him.
Yeah, but like, you think they'd all just be like, yeah, all right, he's just some little skee ball, like, just take him. What the fuck does he matter to us? Like, he's just some junkie, like. But Top Dollar is like, no, you can't have him. And he's like, well, fair enough. And shit goes down. They all start firing at him, and then he falls off the table, and Top Dollar's like, well, I bet that hurt. And one of them goes to check, and he's like, his body's not here. And he gets dragged under the table, and this whole like fight scene just goes on, and he's, you know, he's completely invincible. Like, he'll take the wounds, but just keeps moving through them.
It's a little bit mental, this one.
Yeah, and see, like, if this wasn't some sort of superhero film where, you know, he doesn't feel pain and it doesn't slow him down, you'd be like, this is way too over the top. But it's the fact that they've given the premise of he just heals through it. Yeah. So why would he care?
Like, even when he shot him in the hand, you can tell the scream was fake.
Yeah, exactly. Like, none of it matters to him.
Yeah, it's essentially a ghost. Yeah, to an extent.
Yeah, but I love that, like, he just goes around and he just, you know, he just batters them all, like, and he's just like, you're all going to die. He tells them, like, you're all dead.
Well, pretty much.
Yeah, he kills all of them until, like, he's left to just him and Skank, who's hidden under the table.
I love this. He pushes the sword down.
Yeah. A Skank comes out and he has him, and he's like, I'm gonna kill you, Skank. And he's like, I'm not Skank. Skank's over there. Skank dead. And he's like, no, you're Skank. And it throws him out the window. Like, I love how your man tries to worm out of it. Like,
it's a pretty poor death scene, really. I know he's just killed about 200 people, but
yeah.
But like, theoretically, he's the last person that inflicted a wound on your wife or wife to be's.
It is, but it's also, it's poetic because he gets thrown out the window.
Yeah, no, I understand that bit.
It's, you know, it's to like say, well, I was thrown out the window, so I'm going to throw you out the window.
So obviously Skank is the one who threw him out the window, or
Well, the whole lot of them did, but in whatever way, he's like, one of you is getting thrown out of a window.
Yeah, like he could have started cutting them up or whatever before killing them, but
but he throws them out the window, and then we kind of think that's it all over, and he starts to head back to his grave, and he's like, my work's done, I'm finished. Heads back to his grave, and when he gets there, Sarah is asleep on the grave of Shelley.
Yeah, she's real weird like that.
I mean, she's like, these are the people that she essentially viewed as parents, and she's, it's all quite weird because this is all one night that this is kind of happening over. Maybe it blends into a second night. I don't really know.
Yeah, you don't find out really.
You don't really find out.
He might have come back. Well, no, if it's 1 year after, so he died on Devil's Night.
Yeah, so I think he comes back, and originally it's on Devil's Night. It might bleed into Halloween, but then at the same point, Top Dollar is like, this place should be in flames by now.
So you're still on Devil's Night. It's the timeline's a little bit messed.
Yeah, she's kind of fallen asleep at home, but then woken up, and her mother's making breakfast, which means it is the next day. But how can it be the next day?
Unless she's come back the day before Devil's Night.
Possibly, yeah. It's a bit all over. Like, they don't do great in the timeline of it, but it's fine. It's something you can overlook quite easily.
Yeah.
But she's lying down on the grave, and he comes over, and she's like, I needed to say goodbye, and he takes the ring, and it's on a chain, and he gives it to her, and he's like, I once gave this to Shelley, and I think she'd want you to have it. And your one's like, I'll never take it off. So he's ready to,
That lasts a long time, doesn't it?
Yeah, but he's ready to, he's ready to go. So he sits down at his grave with his hand on her headstone, and Sarah goes to walk home, and then gets kidnapped.
Like Grange.
Yeah, Grange. And now the Top Dollar and his weird sister have, like, she said, that bird is where his power comes from. If you kill the bird, then he's no longer invincible.
I have to wonder how she knows that.
Yeah, it's just kind of the sort of thing of, like, presumably she listens to all of these old wives' tales and legends, and then just knows it from that sort of thing.
Like, she has an Asian look about her, so maybe it's coming from something that they believe.
Possibly, but it's kind of just, the sort of thing of, people who read into all of that and believe in all of that. Like, you hear her loads of times saying that, like, the eyes are the windows to the soul, and, like, she clearly believes in all of that kind of mythical stuff.
Yeah.
So it might just be something that she just has in her head that could have been true and could have been wrong, but happens to have been true,
Yeah.
But they kidnap her, and he hears her scream, and then you see the crow's eyes sees Sarah getting taken away. So he goes to chase, and it's into this church.
So I'd say that's obviously where he had the funeral. Their funeral was, and whatnot, because they're buried beside it.
Yeah, they're buried beside that church, so presumably that's where their funeral and everything is. But he goes in, and the crow is on his shoulder originally, and then it jumps down onto just like one of the seats.
Yeah.
And we see Grange with the laser pointer, and he originally has it on Eric's back, and then when the crow lands on the opposite seat, he switches it and shoots the crow.
Yeah. Pure badness here.
Yeah, but then we see, Top Dollar comes out and shoots Eric, and Eric presumably thinks, it's fine, I'm just going to heal, but then realizes that he doesn't, and he's like, oh, shit.
Yeah, and he just goes down the loop.
He goes down and, like, gets battered around here a bit, and we see the sister tying Sarah up above.
Yeah, it's all weird, like.
Yeah, and then this is well, Albrecht shows up and starts firing off shots.
You have to wonder how he knew where they were. I imagine it was just him going to the grave.
I think he's on his way to the grave, and then he starts hearing gunshots.
Right.
But yeah, he starts firing shots off, and he eventually kills Grange up on the Palpa.
Albrecht here is badass with his two handguns.
Yeah, he eventually gets the shots off, but while all this is happening, the sister kind of runs down and grabs the crow and runs back upstairs with her. Runs back upstairs with the crow. And Top Dollar has gone up the stairs as well. And Albrecht goes over to Eric, and he's like, okay, I got an idea. We go up, you stand in front of me, and then you take all the bullets because you're invincible. And then when they run out of bullets, I'll shoot them. And he's like,
I will arrest them.
Yeah, and he's like, that's a great plan. There's just one flaw, and takes his hand away from his shoulder, and there's all blood, and he's like, oh, Christ. He's like, right, well, it looks like you do need my help then. Let's go.
This lasts so long.
Yeah, but as he's going up the stairs, what I love here is he's going up the stairs and, your one's holding the crow and she's like, we're going to steal your power. And then the crow just pecks out her eyes, which is great because, prior to this, she's talked loads about, she's cut out the other person's eyes. And then when she has Sarah there, she's like, her eyes are full of innocence. And you can see that her plan is to cut out her eyes as well.
Yeah, she's real weird for that, isn't she?
Yeah, exactly. But that's kind of what I was saying. Like, she believes in all of this, eyes are the soul, or like windows to the soul and stuff like that. So it doesn't surprise me that she believes that the crow is
the power.
That she knows that old wives' tale and then believes that that's the reason that he has this power. But she falls down, and I
love how she hangs onto the rope first and then just falls. Yeah,
just crashes down in front of like just in the middle of nowhere. She gets shot. She crashes down past Albrecht, who's on the floor because he went in front of the crow and went in front of Eric and took a shot. So he's just sitting there. So Eric continues up and follows up to find Top Dollar on the top of the roof with
Sarah.
And he's like, now listen, just let her go and you can kill me. Like, I won't fight back. And Top Dollar kind of like throws her to the side, and then decides he's going to kill Eric, who then decides he's just going to fight back here. So they have this big
snaky son bitch, isn't he?
Yeah, well, they have this big fight scene where they're on top of it's a great looking fight scene, like on top of the church, where like one of them gets knocked slightly to the side. They have to like scramble back up, and he takes the
antenna.
It's not an antenna though. It's like it's something up, like it's like a cross, but it's not a cross sort of thing up on top of the church, and he's like fighting them with that as a sword fight, like.
And it also strikes electricity onto it, doesn't it? Like strike of lightning hits it.
Yeah.
And
they're just battering each other up here, and then eventually the two swords kind of get knocked away, and it looks like Top Dollar is about to, win the fight, and he goes, I've got something for you. I've held onto it for too long. And he just grabs him by the head and he goes, 30 hours of pain all at once, which, if you were being given that, Jesus, which, makes Top Dollar fall, and he falls off the roof and gets impaled on something.
The gargoyle.
Yeah.
I love this though, the gargoyle. You see the water because it's raining.
Yeah.
The water turns to blood and it's just pouring out the mouth.
Yeah, what I like here is that the ring kind of falls out of his like pocket thing as well and falls into the ground, but you see the crow sees the ring.
He goes and gets it.
It doesn't show you the crow going and get it, but you just see that the crow sees it.
Yeah.
Well,
shiny.
Yeah. While this is happening though, Eric obviously picks Sarah back up, goes down, and he sits down beside Albrecht, and Albrecht's like, get me a smoke. So they give him a smoke, and he takes one drag of it, spits it out, and goes, that's it. If I survive this, I'm quitting.
Yeah, this is where we've seen him do it with Darla earlier.
Yeah.
Because he likes to smoke and takes a drag, so he's obviously done something to it.
Yeah, he's like, ugh. Right, that's it. I'm quitting.
Yeah.
But I like this, and then that's kind of the end scene. Everyone gets taken out. The police show up, save everyone. I
love here though. Eric turns around to Sarah and is like, "Stay with him until help comes."
Yeah, and then he goes back to the grave.
Are you dead?
Yeah, but I like that he goes back to the grave here, and then Shelley comes back to give him like to bring him to bring him back to peace, like.
Yeah.
And his grave is covered again after this. It's like it never happened.
Yeah, it's just killed about 20, 30 people, and
but I like that they're like, there's still a mystic to it.
They're at peace now though.
Yeah, and when Sarah shows back up, the crow is sitting there with the ring in the hand. She puts her hand out, and it just drops the ring into her hand, and
thanks
for that, and then off she goes. It's such a good film, like overall, and it's such a shame, like as we said, that he died in the filming of it, because based on this, it looked like he could have been a huge, at least action star. Whether he would have gone into more serious roles or not, he looked dead set to be a big star.
Well, like according to I was looking it up today before I watched it, it like according to a lot of reports, was they were tipping him to be a huge star.
Yeah, and I think he would have been based on
No,
this.
I think a lot of it would have gone off his dad's name to get into the likes of this. But you need to get a break somewhere.
You get your break somewhere, and like, okay, yeah, he gets in on his dad's name, but his acting in this is brilliant.
Yeah. Obviously, unfortunately, what happened to him on the set was an absolute joke.
Yeah, I don't know how an actual bullet was in one of those guns. Like,
was it not that it was a full clip? Was that not the case? Was that not, like, I read a report that it said, so obviously they're putting blanks in the guns when they were shooting at him, and it turned out to be a real bullet that hit him and hit an artery, and he bled out.
Yeah.
Like, but one of the reports said that the whole clip was a full one, not just one bullet. Because if it was one bullet, someone has intentionally placed it there.
Even if it's a full clip, someone's intentionally placed it there.
No, but like that could have come as a mistake from, say, the factory. Do you know what I mean? They've sent out the wrong thing, or because no one was ever done for it.
Yeah, well, I suppose, yeah, it's just something that, like, I suppose they'll never know. It seems
it was a freak accident.
Yeah, but like, even if it's just one bullet, like, did the factory send out one bullet incorrectly as well? Is something that you could say the same thing, you know?
Yeah, well, like, it's just, that's all just theory.
But one thing is that he died before they finished filming, so a lot of this film is actually done with using previous scenes of him superimposed into other scenes, which is amazing for considering this was done in 1994.
I thought he died just before his last couple of scenes.
Yeah,
which were actually the start of the movie.
It's the last couple of scenes aren't done, but because they still had to do those first couple of scenes, like, they still had a couple of scenes left to do. So all of those bits are done based off stuff he'd already filmed, which is incredible. Right, yeah, like, that's incredibly, like, that they managed to do that based on previous stuff he'd done for the film.
It's a strange one. Like, I know there's certain movies in terms that have come out and people have like, oh, there's bad things and there's bad omens on them. Like, this obviously has one that the main actor died. The Omen, The Exorcist. Yeah. There's certain movies that get made and bad things just keep happening.
Yeah, well, I think the thing with this one was more that his dad died at the same age that his dad died at.
Yeah.
Was the big thing here.
His dad was a strange one as well, that when he passed away, like, he got a headache, took aspirin, went to bed, and that was it. Like,
yeah. But yeah, without all the morbid stuff of unfortunate passings away, like, this film is just, it stands the test of time. It's so good. Like,
it's phenomenal.
As an anti-hero or whatever superhero type film that you want to call it, like, it's, you know, it's just done so well, and like, they make it gritty.
Oh, it's dark.
Yeah, like, they make it gritty, so they're like, you really hate these lads, so you don't feel any, like, sadness for these lads getting stabbed and cut up and blown up, anything.
Like the casting and the director and the casting manager obviously knew that they needed somebody that was Weasley and thing. And what do you do? I'm gonna go straight to my phone book, David Thomas Kelly.
Yeah,
there you go.
But not even him, just like that, all the other actors, they do it so well. Like, Tintin does it so well. Funboy plays his part of being like Skank does his one brilliantly, but Funboy plays the part of being like a morphine addict. Yeah. Really well as well and stuff like that. The whole thing is just done so well.
Yeah, like, I can see why, but like, I'm surprised that the critics have given it as high a rating as 83, especially for the type of movie that it is. But it's well deserved.
Yeah, it is. It's as I said, like, I hadn't watched this in quite a while, but well, I say quite a while. It's probably been 3 or 4 years since I'd watched it.
Oh, it's been a lot longer for me.
Yeah, no, it's about 3 or 4 years. I watched it 3 or 4 years ago because I have it on DVD, and I happened to be looking for something to watch, and I was like, geez, I haven't watched that in ages. Throw that on.
That's the best thing about this show, though. It brings you back to watching movies, and you're like,
yeah, but like, yeah. It's just, it's incredible. And like, as you said, like, some scenes are just so iconic, like the one behind me, the one where he's sitting on the table, just so much of it is just so
even
good.
The name, though,
the Crow,
like, no, not even the Crow, like Eric Draven. Like, a lot of movie fans, if you say to someone who's Eric Draven, they'll know who it is.
Yeah, exactly. It's just done, the whole thing is just done so well, and it's so unfortunate that
Yeah, I think we would have been getting, like, he had signed on to do 3 of them.
Yeah, see, the one thing is that I kind of have a problem with there is that why would he be brought back again? He's already righted the wrong that he'd passed away for. The idea was that the Crow would be brought back to help other people.
Yeah.
But whatever. It would have been interesting to see where they went with it. But
we didn't get that.
Yeah, we didn't get it, and maybe for the better, we didn't get it.
Not for the right reasons, but
not for the right reasons, but maybe for the better, because it might have hurt the series or whatever. But as a standalone film, absolutely incredible. One of the better action films of the 90s, probably, of pure action.
Yeah, because there's not a lot in it that doesn't. Like, he goes from blowing up the pawn shop to killing, or from killing Tintin to blowing up the pawn shop.
To Funboy, to T-Bird. But like, when you think of 90s action, a lot of the 90s action is Will Smith comedy actions and
Lethal Weapon.
Well, Lethal Weapon, like the original Lethal Weapon, is the 80s as well.
Yeah, but 2, 3, and
they are,
4,
but like but like a lot of 90s action is quite comedy action and things like that. Whereas there's no comedy in this, like.
No, not at all. Apart from maybe some of the acting that you could have a laugh with Skank.
Yeah, but that's not meant to, it's not meant to be funny. It just happens to be funny, sort of thing. When you look at it, you're like, that's kind of funny. But that's it for this week, and we'll see you again for the next film in Action August. But until then, good luck.